Is that useless boy of yours still alive? Or did you finally do the right thing and put him somewhere he can't embarrass the family? Those words still echo in my mind, even now, 17 years later. They came from my ex-husband Christopher's mouth in the waiting room of Boston Children's Hospital, said loud enough for everyone to hear. He wasn't asking out of concern. He was mocking me. Mocking our son. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. Back when I still believed in the man I married. My name is Jennifer Hayes. I was 31 when Nathan was born in January 2006, during one of Boston's worst snowstorms. Christopher and I had been married for 3 years. He was a corporate lawyer at a prestigious firm downtown, and I taught piano lessons from our brownstone in Beacon Hill. We had what everyone called the perfect life. Nathan was a beautiful baby. 10 fingers, 10 toes, a head full of dark hair just like his father. For the first 2 years, everything seemed normal. He hit his milestones. He smiled. He laughed. But then, slowly, things changed. Nathan stopped making eye contact. He would spend hours lining up his toy cars in perfect rows over and over again. If I moved even one car, he would have a complete meltdown. He stopped responding to his name. By age 2.5, he still wasn't speaking. Not a single word. "He's just a late bloomer," Christopher would say, barely looking up from his laptop. Boys develop slower than girls. Everyone knows that. But I knew something was different. A mother knows. When Nathan was 3 years old, I took him to see Dr. Patricia Morrison, a developmental pediatrician at Boston Children's Hospital. Christopher didn't come to that appointment. He said he had an important deposition. I'll never forget sitting in that small consultation room, Nathan on my lap, rocking back and forth, humming the same note over and over. Dr. Morrison was gentle but direct. "Mrs. Hayes, based on the assessments we've conducted, Nathan meets the criteria for autism spectrum disorder." The words hung in the air like ice crystals. I felt my whole world shift. "What does that mean?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "What does that mean for his future?" "Doctor." Morrison explained about therapy, early intervention, the importance of routine and structure. She talked about how every child with autism is different, how the spectrum is wide and varied. Some children make tremendous progress. Others face more challenges. "The most important thing," she said, "is that Nathan has parents who love him and advocate for him. That's what makes the real difference." Parents, plural. That night, I told Christopher. We were in the kitchen of our brownstone. I had made his favorite dinner, trying to soften the blow, though I don't know why I felt like I needed to. "The doctor confirmed it today," I said. "Nathan has autism." Christopher set down his wine glass. "Autism," he repeated, like the word tasted bitter. "Are they sure? Did you get a second opinion?" "Dr. Morrison is one of the best in New England. I trust her diagnosis." "Well, I don't." He stood up, pacing. "I want another evaluation. A real one. This is probably just some trendy diagnosis they're giving every kid these days who isn't perfect." "Christopher, it's not a trend. Our son needs help. He needs therapy, and we need to start now, while he's young and his brain is still developing." "I don't have a defective son," Christopher's voice rose, sharp and cutting. "I come from a good family. Harvard Law. There's nothing wrong with my genes. This is obviously from your side." I stared at him. "My side?" "Christopher, autism isn't about blame. It's not anyone's fault." "Isn't it?" He turned on me, his face twisted with an anger I'd never seen before. "You were the one who wanted to keep working during pregnancy. You were the one who insisted on that organic diet nonsense. You probably caused this with all your weird health food." The accusations were absurd, scientifically baseless. But they kept coming. Over the next few weeks, Christopher found every excuse to distance himself from Nathan. He worked later hours. He traveled more for business. When he was home, he would lock himself in his study. The breaking point came 3 months after the diagnosis. I had enrolled Nathan in an early intervention program. 3 times a week, therapists would come to our house to work with him. It was expensive, but our insurance covered most of it. Nathan was making progress. Small progress, but progress nonetheless. He had started making eye contact again. He would occasionally point at things he wanted. One afternoon, Christopher came home early and found Nathan in the living room with his speech therapist, Miss Rachel. Nathan was sitting on the floor, playing with musical toys. Miss Rachel would play a note on the xylophone, and Nathan would try to echo it back. "What's the point of this?" Christopher asked loudly, interrupting the session. Miss Rachel looked up, professional but clearly uncomfortable. "Mr. Hayes, Nathan is showing remarkable aptitude for musical patterns. This kind of play can help him develop communication skills." Communication skills? He's 3 years old and can't even say, "Mama." This is a waste of time and money. "Christopher, please," I said, trying to move him out of the room, but he shook me off. He walked over to Nathan, who was still focused on the xylophone, and said in a voice dripping with disgust, "Look at him. He doesn't even know we're here. He's in his own world. He'll never be normal." That night, after Miss Rachel left and Nathan was in bed, Christopher told me he wanted a divorce. "I can't do this," he said coldly. "I can't watch my son be like this. I can't have a defective child. People at the firm are already talking. Did you know that? They whisper about why I never bring him to company events. It's humiliating." "He's your son," I said, my voice shaking with fury and heartbreak. "He's 3 years old and he's your son." "He's broken," Christopher said, "and I won't sacrifice my life, my career, my future for something that will never be fixed." The divorce was brutal and fast. Christopher had the better lawyers, obviously. He fought me on every detail. He didn't want custody of Nathan, didn't even want visitation, but he also didn't want to pay much in child support. "She can have the defective kid," I heard him tell his lawyer during one court session. He didn't even lower his voice. "I just want out." The judge, thankfully, saw through him. I got full custody, the house, and enough support to cover Nathan's therapies. But it wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. Christopher left for New York 2 weeks after the divorce was finalized. I heard through mutual friends that he was already seeing someone new, a junior partner at his firm, someone without baggage, as he apparently put it. So there I was, 32 years old, divorced, with a 3-year-old son who needed specialized care. I thought about giving up. I won't lie about that. There were nights when Nathan would cry for hours, overwhelmed by sensory input I couldn't understand, and I would sit on the bathroom floor and wonder if Christopher was right. If I was foolish for trying to do this alone, but then I would look at Nathan, really look at him, and I would see past the autism, past the challenges, to the little boy underneath, the little boy who would smile when I sang to him, the little boy who loved the way sunlight streamed through the kitchen window in the morning, the little boy who was mine. I started taking on more piano students. I would teach from 6 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. Then I would spend the rest of the day with Nathan and his therapists. Money was tight. The house was expensive to maintain, but I couldn't bear to sell it. It was Nathan's home, his safe space, with routines and familiar corners. Moving would devastate him. So I cut back everywhere else. I stopped eating out. I wore the same clothes for years. I canceled subscriptions, memberships, everything that wasn't essential. Every penny went to Nathan's care. When Nathan was 4, something remarkable happened. I was giving a piano lesson to one of my students, a teenager named Sophie, in our living room. Nathan was supposed to be in the playroom with his aide, but he had wandered out. He stood in the doorway, watching. Sophie was struggling with a Bach prelude. She kept hitting the wrong notes in a particular measure. Nathan walked over to the piano. He climbed up on the bench next to her. And then, without any prompting, he played the measure. Perfectly. Not just the notes, but with the right dynamics, the right phrasing. He had heard it once, maybe twice, and he had it memorized. Sophie and I stared at him in shock. Nathan played it again, then looked at me and hummed the melody. That was the moment everything changed. I started playing music for Nathan constantly. Classical, jazz, contemporary, everything. He would listen with an intensity I'd never seen in him before, and then he would go to the piano and play what he'd heard. Not just play it, but understand it, interpret it, make it his own. By age 5, Nathan could play pieces that I had studied for years. He couldn't read music. Not yet, but he didn't need to. He would hear a piece once, and it would live in his mind, perfect and complete. His speech was still limited. He could say a few words, Mama, piano, music, but full sentences were beyond him. He struggled with eye contact, with social interaction, with any change to his routine. But when he was at the piano, Nathan was free. He was eloquent. He was brilliant. I found him a music therapist, Dr. Alan Chen, who specialized in working with children on the spectrum. Dr. Chen was the first person who told me that Nathan had perfect pitch, an extraordinary auditory memory, and an instinctive understanding of musical structure. Jennifer, Dr. Chen said during one of our sessions, Nathan is gifted, profoundly gifted. With the right support, there's no limit to what he could achieve musically. But support required money, more money than I had. I sold my jewelry. I sold Christopher's old golf clubs that he'd left behind. I sold anything of value in that house. I took on more students, teaching until my fingers ached, and I found grants, scholarships, programs for children with special needs who showed exceptional talent. Nathan started studying with a renowned piano instructor at the New England Conservatory when he was 7. Maestro Vladimir Petrov was a stern Russian man who had trained concert pianists for 40 years. He almost didn't take Nathan on. "A child with autism cannot perform," he said bluntly during Nathan's audition. "He cannot handle the pressure, the crowds, the unpredictability of live performance." "Then don't make him perform," I said. "Just teach him, please. Listen to him play and tell me you can turn him away." Nathan played Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. He was 7 years old. Maestro Petrov sat in silence for a long moment after the final note faded. "I will teach him," he said quietly. "But you must understand, the boy is special. Not in spite of his condition, but perhaps because of it. He hears music the way most of us hear language. It is his native tongue." Nathan studied with Maestro Petrov for the next 10 years. Some lessons were difficult. Nathan would have meltdowns when his routine changed. He couldn't handle the bright lights of the practice rooms. Certain sounds would overwhelm him, and he would shut down completely. But Maestro Petrov was patient in a way I never expected. He learned Nathan's cues, his triggers. He adapted his teaching, and Nathan bloomed. By age 12, Nathan was composing his own pieces. Not simple melodies, but complex, layered compositions that left professional musicians in awe. He still struggled with words, but he could write full symphonies in his mind, hearing every instrument, every note, every harmony. The irony wasn't lost on me. My son, who couldn't speak in full sentences, was creating some of the most eloquent music I'd ever heard. High school was hard. Nathan attended a specialized school for gifted children, one that could accommodate his needs. He had aids, modifications, a structured environment, but he was bullied. Kids can be cruel, and Nathan's differences made him a target. I wanted to pull him out. I wanted to homeschool him, protect him from the world, but Nathan's therapist advised against it. "He needs to learn to navigate the world as it is," she told me. "You won't always be there to shield him. He's stronger than you think." She was right. Nathan developed coping mechanisms. He found a small group of friends, other kids who were different in their own ways. And most importantly, he had his music. When the world got too loud, too chaotic, too overwhelming, Nathan would compose. Pages and pages of original music poured out of him. When Nathan was 16, Maestro Petrov died suddenly of a heart attack. Nathan didn't cry at the funeral. He couldn't express grief the way others did. But that night, he composed a requiem for his teacher. It was the most beautiful, heartbreaking piece of music I'd ever heard. That requiem changed everything. A recording of Nathan playing it at a small memorial concert was posted online. Within a week, it had been shared thousands of times. Within a month, Nathan had offers from music schools across the country. Within a year, a film director had heard his music and wanted to hire him to compose a score. Nathan was 17 when he composed the music for his first independent film. The director, Maria Sanchez, was patient and accommodating. She conducted all meetings via video chat, gave Nathan detailed notes in writing, and never pressured him for in-person collaboration. The film premiered at Sundance. Nathan's score was haunting, innovative, perfect. It won the festival's award for Best Original Score. That's when the offers really started coming in. Bigger films, bigger budgets, production companies, streaming services. Everyone wanted that autistic composer, as I heard one producer refer to him. I was protective. I reviewed every contract, every offer. I made sure Nathan wasn't being exploited, that he had the accommodations he needed, that he was treated with respect. By the time Nathan turned 20, he was one of the most sought-after composers in Hollywood. He had scored 5 major films, won 2 awards, and earned more money than I'd ever dreamed of. He bought us a beautiful, quiet house in Newton, with a soundproof studio where he could work without sensory overwhelm. Nathan still lived with me. He needed structure, routine, help with daily tasks that others took for granted. But he was happy. He was successful. He was thriving. I thought about Christopher sometimes, wondered if he knew what his defective son had become, but I didn't try to contact him. That chapter was closed. Until last month. I was at Symphony Hall in Boston for the premiere of Nathan's latest composition, a full symphony commissioned by the Boston Symphony Orchestra. It was the biggest night of Nathan's career. The hall was packed. Critics, musicians, celebrities, everyone who mattered in the music world was there. I was standing in the lobby during intermission, talking with the conductor, when I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Jennifer Hayes? Is that really you?" I turned around and there was Christopher. Older, grayer, but still carrying himself with that same arrogant confidence. "Christopher," I said, my voice level, "what are you doing here?" "I'm in town for business. Someone mentioned that the composer tonight, Nathan Hayes, did you remarry and have another son?" Or, he stopped mid-sentence as realization dawned on his face. "Wait, this is our Nathan? The autistic boy?" "He's not a boy anymore," I said coldly. "He's 20 years old and he's the most celebrated young composer in America." Christopher's face went through a series of expressions: shock, disbelief, then something that looked almost like pride, which made my blood boil. "I had no idea he was so talented," Christopher said, trying to smile. "I always knew there was something special about him." "You called him defective," I said quietly, aware that people were watching us. "You said he was broken. You abandoned him when he was 3 years old because you were embarrassed." "I was young, stressed. I didn't understand. You understood perfectly. You just didn't care." Christopher shifted uncomfortably. "Look, I know I wasn't there. I made mistakes, but I'd really love to reconnect with Nathan. Maybe we could—" "No. Jennifer, be reasonable. He's my son too. I have a right. You gave up your rights 17 years ago. You don't get to walk back in now that he's successful." The lights flickered, signaling the end of intermission. I started to walk away, but Christopher grabbed my arm. "Wait, please. I actually need to talk to you about something important. Can we meet? Tomorrow, maybe?" Something in his voice made me pause. This wasn't about Nathan's success. This was something else. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him for coffee the next morning. Christopher was already there when I arrived at the cafe in Cambridge. He looked terrible, tired, anxious, older than his 46 years. "Thank you for coming," he said as I sat down. "I'm only here because you said it was important. What do you want, Christopher?" He took a deep breath. "I need Nathan's help." I almost laughed. "You need his help? You've got to be kidding. Please, just hear me out." He pulled out his phone and showed me a photo of a little girl, maybe 5 years old, with curly blonde hair and her eyes closed. "This is Emma, my daughter." I felt my stomach drop. "You have another child?" "Yes, with my wife, Victoria. We've been married for 10 years. He swiped to another photo, and I saw what he was really showing me. Emma with her eyes open, unseeing, unfocused. Emma was born premature. She's been blind since birth. Completely blind. I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. "She's brilliant," Christopher continued, his voice breaking. "She's so smart, so creative, and she loves music. It's the only thing that truly connects her to the world. We've tried to find ways to help her, to give her opportunities, but it's so hard. She gets frustrated, overwhelmed. She has these meltdowns where she just screams and screams because she can't express what she's feeling." The irony was staggering, almost poetic. "And you think Nathan can help her?" I said. I've been doing research. There are programs that use music therapy for blind children, composition, sound mapping, all these techniques. But they're expensive, and Victoria and we've spent so much on medical bills, on specialists. He looked at me with desperate eyes. Nathan could give her private lessons, or even just meet with her once. Show her what's possible. Please, Jennifer. I know I don't deserve to ask, but this isn't about me. Emma is innocent in all of this. He was right about that. The little girl was innocent. I'll talk to Nathan, I said finally. But the decision is his. If he says no, you don't contact us again. Ever. Understood? Christopher nodded gratefully. That evening, I showed Nathan the photos of Emma. I explained who she was, who Christopher was, what he was asking. Nathan looked at the pictures for a long time. He was sitting at his piano, his fingers absently playing a melody I didn't recognize. "She's my sister," he said finally. His speech had improved over the years, though he still spoke carefully, precisely, choosing each word with intention. Half-sister. Yes. He left us because of me. He left because he was selfish and cowardly. That was his choice, not your fault. Nathan played a few more notes. Does he want to be my father now? No, I said honestly. He wants your help for Emma, but not for me. Not back then. No, not back then. Nathan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I want to meet her. Nathan, you don't have to. I want to meet Emma. Not him, just Emma. So I arranged it. One session, at our house, with Nathan and Emma. Christopher could drop her off, but he couldn't stay. The day came. Christopher brought Emma to our door. She was small, delicate, holding her father's hand tightly. She wore sunglasses even though we were inside. Emma, this is Nathan, Christopher said. He's going to play piano with you. Emma turned her head toward Nathan's voice as he approached. Hello, she said softly. Nathan knelt down to her level. Hello, Emma. Do you like music? Yes. Music makes pictures in my head. Nathan smiled. It was rare to see him smile so openly. Music makes pictures in my head, too. I ushered Christopher out. He looked like he wanted to stay, wanted to say something more, but I closed the door on him. Nathan spent 2 hours with Emma that afternoon. I watched from the doorway as he played for her, then guided her small hands to the keys. He taught her about notes, about patterns, about how sounds could paint colors even when your eyes couldn't see them. Emma laughed. She created melodies. She asked Nathan question after question, and he answered each one with patience I didn't know he possessed. When Christopher came to pick her up, Emma was humming a tune she'd composed, bouncing with excitement. Nathan's my friend, she announced. He's going to teach me again next week. Christopher looked at me, hopeful. Next week? I looked at Nathan. He nodded slightly. Emma can come back, I said. But only Emma. You drop her off, you pick her up, that's it. Of course. Of course. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Nathan. Nathan didn't respond to Christopher. He knelt down to Emma again. Same time next week? Yes! Emma clapped her hands. Over the next few months, Emma became a regular visitor. Every Tuesday afternoon, Christopher would drop her off, and Nathan would spend 2 hours teaching her music. She was a natural, just like Nathan. They understood each other in a way that transcended words. I noticed Christopher started trying to arrive early, or stay late, trying to have conversations, trying to rebuild something. Nathan's amazing with her, he said one afternoon, lingering in the doorway. I don't know how to thank you both. You can thank us by respecting our boundaries, I said. I am. I've been thinking a lot about the past, about my mistakes. Good. You should think about them. Do you think maybe eventually Nathan and I could talk? I'd really like to apologize to him properly. That's not my decision to make. One evening, after Emma had gone home, I asked Nathan how he felt about seeing Christopher every week. I don't see him, Nathan said. I see Emma. But he's her father. Does that bother you? Nathan thought about this. He was my father. But he chose not to be. That was his choice. He played a soft chord on the piano. Emma didn't choose her father. She didn't choose to be blind. She's innocent. You're helping her not for him, but for her. Yes, that's very mature of you. Nathan looked at me directly, which he still rarely did. You taught me that. You showed me what love looks like, what a parent does. That's not him. That's you. I had to leave the room because I started crying. Last week, Nathan premiered his latest composition at Carnegie Hall in New York. It was a piece he'd been working on for months, called Emma's Song. It was bright, playful, full of the joy that Emma brought into his life. The performance was spectacular, standing ovation, critics calling it his masterpiece. Christopher was there, Victoria too, and Emma. They had front row seats. After the performance, there was a reception. Nathan doesn't usually attend these things. They're too overwhelming for him. But this time, he did. For Emma, Christopher approached us during the reception. He looked nervous. Nathan, that was incredible. I'm so proud of you. Nathan looked at him for a long moment. Then he said, in that careful, precise way he speaks, "You're not allowed to be proud of me." Christopher's face fell. Nathan, I know I wasn't there. You weren't there when I needed you. You called me defective, broken. You left because I wasn't perfect. Nathan's voice was calm, matter-of-fact, which somehow made it more devastating. I don't need your pride now. I never needed your pride. I needed your love. And you chose not to give it. I was wrong. I was so wrong. If I could go back, you can't. Nathan glanced at Emma, who was holding Victoria's hand nearby. But Emma can go forward. I'll keep teaching her, for her sake, not for yours. Nathan, please. I'm your father. No, Nathan said simply. You're the man who contributed DNA. My mother is my parent. She stayed. She fought. She sacrificed everything. He looked at me. That's what makes a parent. Christopher tried to speak, but nothing came out. Nathan turned back to him one last time. You can bring Emma every Tuesday. You can pay for her lessons, since I know money was always important to you. But you and I, we're not family. We never will be. Then he walked away, toward Emma, kneeling down to talk to her about the performance. Christopher stood there, and for the first time in 17 years, I saw him truly broken. Not defective, just broken, by his own choices. He's right, you know, I said quietly. You don't get to be proud now. You don't get to claim him. You gave that up a long time ago. I know, Christopher whispered. I know. I left him standing there and went to join Nathan and Emma. My son, who the world tried to break, who his own father abandoned, who was told he'd never amount to anything. My son, who speaks through music more eloquently than most people speak with words. That night, Nathan and I sat in the quiet of our home. He was tired but content. Are you okay? I asked. With everything you said to him? Yes. I said what was true. Do you think you'll ever forgive him? Nathan considered this. Forgiveness doesn't mean he gets to be my father. Forgiveness just means I don't let him take up space in my head anymore. He played a gentle melody on the piano. He's not worth the space. I hugged my son, this brilliant, beautiful, extraordinary human being who taught me more about love, strength, and resilience than I ever taught him. Christopher still brings Emma every Tuesday. He drops her off and leaves. Sometimes I see him sit in his car outside, watching through the window as Nathan and Emma make music together. I wonder if he understands what he lost. I wonder if he ever will. But that's not my concern anymore. My concern is this. Emma just composed her first full piece. Nathan is so proud of her. We're planning to have a small recital for her at our house next month. And me? I sit at that same piano where I used to give lessons to pay for Nathan's therapy, and I listen to my son create beauty from notes and silence, and I know that every sacrifice was worth it. They said he was broken. They said he'd never amount to anything. They said I was foolish for fighting so hard for a child who would never be normal. They were wrong about everything except one thing. Nathan will never be normal. He's exceptional, and he's mine.